Dallas Diablos Radio.
Dallas Diablos Radio.
DDR podcast, episode 31. Welcome. Hey, you listen to the host of the podcast, the Gabe. Joining me on the show this week. We're back. I'm back as the host of the podcast for this episode.
The champ is here.
Who else is joining me on the podcast this week? Who's also on this podcast?
Chop.
Zoe.
Ant-Man.
Aaron.
Rafi.
What's
Got
up,
an
everybody?
awesome. What is up?
What's
How's
happening?
everybody doing?
Hey, man, what took you so long to take your throne back, bro? I mean, we had an imposter the whole time.
Oh,
Imposter?
wow. Oh, wow.
You sit at the Game of Thrones. You're sitting on the Iron Throne, bro. What happened? You guys fight it out? Oh, no, he's gone. You just fell into those cleats there, Lambo.
It's the boot room from FC Dallas's gym. I think our big fan and constant fan mail delivery guy, Renato, I think he took this photo a long time ago.
Yeah, Renato does send us a lot of fan mail. Well, that's good.
He
Whatever
does.
it took. Well, either way, it's good to see you back on the throne, sir.
Yeah, I couldn't put the dick pics on there, so.
Oh, this is a family.
It just went from PG to PG-13.
Sorry, radio people.
We're trying to boost those ratings with the older demographic now.
Job's trying to move the stadium from Frisco to Dallas.
That would be nice.
All right, so we got a few topics we're going to kick around today on this podcast. Obviously, the main topic is going to be when will sports come back? When is MLS coming back? When is FC Dallas coming back? When is EPL coming back? And some of the other sports too. We're going to talk about big news in the U.S. Soccer Federation, getting rid of the youth system and just the reorganization at a national level of what the U.S. youth system will look like. Compare that to some other leagues. And then, of course, we have news of, do we have Rafi's rumors today?
Yeah.
Oh, we got
do.
Rafi's
Oh.
rumors today. And, of course, we got fan mail. So stick around for fan mail and Rafi's rumors too. All right, so the first topic is when is sports coming back? When are we going to turn on TV, turn on ESPN or Fox Soccer?
It's already on. Have you guys haven't been watching the Korean Baseball League that's on ESPN at 5:30 in the morning? I watched it this morning. I could not sleep. I was wide awake at like 4 o'clock, and I flipped it on ESPN, man, and watching Korean Baseball League. Got some ballers out there, man, for the Dino whatever they are. But it was fun seeing real sports in live action. I was excited. I grabbed some popcorn at 4:30 in the morning and, made a go of it. I was cheering, and it felt really strange.
How many home runs were there? Any home runs, grand slams?
From the Korean Baseball League, they're not really known for that. They're more of kind of like a bunt and single kind of a league. They're just trying to move the bases. They're very tactical. It's a thinking man's game, right? So they're not really crushing the ball.
It's not a power game.
Yeah, this isn't Texas Rangers and Joey Gallo going deep in the third. It's not really that kind of game. But yeah, it was impressive. I was just excited to see live sports. So yes, it has begun with Korean Baseball League.
And so they've come. Go ahead.
UFC on Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
And we had a WrestleMania a couple weeks ago, so they did that too. So that was good.
Is it all going to be? Is it closed doors or what? Like no audiences, right?
Yeah, it's no fun. Yeah.
Correct. And then NASCAR's coming back too.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I've missed that the most.
Yeah, and golf. Actually, the first golf event, it's a PGA event that's going to happen here in Texas. So that'll be the first event. That'll be probably a lot of attention.
Texas.
So it's starting to get that way. We're getting there. NFL announced its schedule this week, and so we're coming along. Basketball's talking about. I think tomorrow some basketball teams can start training, and MLS clubs have started to get back to work. I know a couple teams. There was Colorado. There was a couple of them.
Yeah, I got a list right here. It's Atlanta, Colorado, Houston, Inter Miami, LAFC, Nashville, Orlando City, Portland, Salt Lake, Sporting KC. That's it.
What?
Yeah.
We're missing one that we care about.
Well, we haven't started yet. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they just haven't announced that they're coming back, but I'm sure if those other teams are coming back, they will too.
Yeah, I'm sure you do now. Yeah.
The other latest announcement is in a MLS commissioner said he is more optimistic about a return to play than a month ago. but there's still no specific date given. But yeah, it sounds like with other teams coming back, with other leagues figuring this out, that he's more optimistic that MLS may happen at some point this year. But yeah, it didn't really give a timeline. But that came out today. That's the latest news from MLS.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting to note that we're looking at contrast, right, between not only different countries but also different states within the U.S. So you have countries like France who just deemed the season to be over, crowned the champions, promoted relegation, and then you have countries like England and other places that. And I think this ties in a little bit with what Joe Trahan always says about those contracts with TV and like all these multi-million-dollar contracts that play into it. And so looking at the list that Chop just read, right, we have about 10 or so teams that started training again, but then depending on the situation on specific states within the U.S., some teams may not be able to resume just yet. So I think it's interesting to see the contrast between not only just different countries from different continents, but also just different states within the U.S. It kind of shows you the different levels that each state is as far as kind of combating coronavirus.
Yeah, even the Bundesliga said, but they are going to have like a return date or something like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, each country, each state is like handling it differently. But the thing about the U.S. is like, even though each state handles it differently, they need like MLS is technically international, so they need like Canadian teams and like all the states on board to come up with a solution.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like it's going to be interesting. Like when they all decide to make that happen, it's going to be fun. Yeah.
You also have to factor in. Sorry, you also have to factor in the CONCACAF Champions League because if they decide to resume and we're not back yet, then what happens?
We got our butts kicked real quick. Even faster.
So actually, I saw this morning Lucci had an interview, and he's actually been in very close contact with the players. He's the players are specifically getting their tasks done as far as what they need for each individual player to train. So they're training individually, but as far as when they'll start to train as a team, that's yet to be determined depending on how things open up here in Texas.
Hey, Ron, how long do you think it would take a professional athlete in this, we'll say soccer in this instance, to get back up to playing speed at this point, or Rafi too? I know Ant-Man's top player in England and all, but I'd like to go to my other guys stateside real quick. But how long do you think that would take?
So, I mean, generally game fitness, it comes after playing a few full games. So you're going to have to get the experience of actually playing in the game. You can have your body conditioned and everything, but I think usually it takes maybe 3 or 4 games before you're actually at that fitness to where you're not getting injured, you're efficient, you're not getting tired, your body's recovering faster. So we're going to be well into a season, before we'll actually see, the players actually start to shine. You
think they would simulate a lot of those games? Obviously, kind of like a training camp, mini camp, whatever you call it.
I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on that. So for the pace of the game here in the U.S., MLS specifically, it will take them once they return, about 4 weeks for them to be able to be fit, right, to play in a match. Obviously, FIFA is talking about including 2 extra substitutions per game, totaling 5, because they're factoring fatigue and being tired and for the length of time that they've been out. So like Aaron said, it won't be until 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 games into the season, depending on who plays 90 minutes, until they're fully game fit. But about 4 weeks of training camp so that they are fit to play a professional match in the MLS type of pace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would put us, if they started right now, that would put us in June, mid-June almost.
Wouldn't they even have to do like a mini camp too, like like a 4-week mini camp or something like that?
Absolutely.
That would be it, yeah. But like Aaron said, FCD, and that's who I follow the most, obviously, they've been doing a really good job at actually giving those workouts to the players. And the players have been putting those workouts on social media. So they show the explosive workouts they've been doing, all the fitness preparations that they've been doing, all the technical stuff that they are doing. Pretty cool. Pamukal has been doing a lot of cool training regimens. He's getting his siblings involved. Servania has been doing a pretty cool workout as well. I saw something from Thiago Santos, Bresson, a couple of the guys, Barrios. So it's been interesting that they are actually doing that and giving control of the social media account to each player, throughout the week to do something.
Can I interrupt? I wanted to give my favorite one that I saw. There's a guy named Rafi who's been posting some really good social media videos of his skills, and his ball skills are incredible. Just right there outside of his place, man. I'm telling you, I think the FCD guys are actually stealing his stuff. That's just hearsay. Maybe we'll hear about that in rumors, but that's the best video. I'm just putting it out there that I've seen. So
I've been learning one of his tricks. It's pretty tough. I tell you, I can barely do it.
You're a very kind person, Joe. I appreciate that, man.
And do we know what's happening across the pond and with EPL? Are they planning to come back too?
Britt. Ask Britt. Ask Britt.
I think the latest is they're gunning for a June restart, but there's lots of things to be resolved, right? I think the only reason they want to restart is because so much of the money is from TV contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think 70% of the revenue is TV contracts. They want to fulfill the contracts before they end the season. And then there's a number of interesting things. So the clubs that are going to say they're talking about playing at neutral grounds and potentially shortening the games. But the big thing about the neutral grounds is the teams at the bottom of the table prefer to play at home because they win more games. It's a big advantage.
Right.
To those teams at home. Right? So the teams at the bottom of the table with lots of home games left will be at a massive disadvantage of potentially get relegated moving to a neutral ground. So they're resisting. So they don't want to approve it. So the Premier League is saying, well, we'll end the season and relegate you anyway then. The government's still got to approve it because England's still under lockdown. There's an announcement on Sunday what's actually happening to the country. And then the question is, what are we going to do if one player catches it? So we start up this mini season.
Right.
If one player catches it, is that team out of the competition? If that team's out, is the league finished? How do we do it? And it's all got to be wrapped up by August because UEFA want to finish the Champions League and the Europa League in August. So the country's still shut down there. So I think they want to get it done in June, July and have it finished by August. The other issue is there's lots of players whose contracts end in June, which would have been the end of the season. So they're not obliged to play anymore either. So what about the players that are scared and don't want to play? So there's they might be doing temporary contracts to tie them over to finish the season. So there's a lot of stuff to resolve, I think, before we get a decision.
Yeah, I say we just whatever the standings are now, just go with that because my Hammers are tied for 8th right now.
And then Liverpool will win.
We don't need to play any more games. Let's just go ahead. That's Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Norwich City, and Watford. Bye, guys. Sorry, nice knowing you. And then the Hammers can prepare for next year.
Anthony, I think it's interesting the point that you brought up because UEFA wants to finish both of their campaigns, which then in turn means that the EPL has to come up with a decision, right? They want to finish by August in kind of like a mini tournament, single elimination games, neutral ground. So for them to have the British representatives, then the EPL has to make a decision. But then how do you arrive at that decision in a safe manner, right? Talking about if a player catches it, Flamengo, who played Liverpool in the Club World Cup final this past season, they just tested their players this week because they returned to work yesterday, tested everyone, including staff. 3 players are infected and 20 staff members are infected. So, what do they do now? Do they, return with the players that aren't infected right now, right? But, I mean, they've already been in close proximity with the other players as they were testing.
Right.
Like, what happens now, So it's tough. The Brazilian government is still kind of debating, what to do. The president is pretty firm on his word that he wants to reopen everything. He feels like everything is safe and we should just accommodate what the people want, which is to see soccer games being played. But is that really the safest route right now? I think it should be.
I think the sensible thing for the EPL would just be to abandon the season, right? But I think it's just commercial. I think like maybe France did because the problem is EPL sort of only 10% of the revenue is from the gate receipts, right? So they've actually they could turn that away, but they actually need to finish the season for the commercial contracts, right? So that's the issue there. But I think also as well, maybe that the Bundesliga is restarting. It puts even more pressure on them to restart, right? They don't want to lose everyone to start going watch Bundesliga, then the EPL's not restarted. So I think that like the sensible, safe thing to do, where UK is probably would just be to abandon it. But, the
Well,
commercial.
there's been some rumors of MLS shifting its schedule, just taking this opportunity to shift its schedule and align itself with Europe. I just wondered if you'd heard anything about maybe England taking the opportunity to become like a summer league, just as like a hypothetical.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be interesting with the Qatar World Cup. Talking of changing time,
Yep.
that's going to be interesting. No,
I
I think
they haven't taken that away yet. What that dirty deed?
Oh, yeah.
They should go back to the U.S. We need 2 back-to-back U.S. World Cups. Okay, I'm done.
That would be awesome.
They haven't taken it away yet.
Taken away.
Yeah, okay. We'll give England one of those, and we have the other. Okay.
Yeah, England deserves one. Let's go.
But yeah, then as soon as we get through this, then we got to figure out how we're going to manage that, right?
Yeah.
Because, December.
Yep.
I think it finishes on December 23rd, which is normally a massive peak season for EPL fixtures, right? You normally have just before Christmas
And Boxing Day.
Christmas, Boxing Day,
Okay.
New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and imagine we play loads of games over that period. So the players aren't going to return finishing Qatar on the 23rd, surely, and be playing back in England on the 26th, right? So
We'll
it'll be a
see.
major disruption. We'll see. See what happens.
I got a question about that. One more answer. So there are some reports talking about some of these teams are talking about revolting, but it's not some of the necessarily bigger teams. Like if it's a team like Brighton, they're like, oh, you're going to play, we're going to revolt. Maybe people don't care as much. But if it's a Man United, a Man City, et cetera, a Tottenham, obviously that'd bring more attention to it. Do you think some of these bigger clubs can really make a sway point to kind of put their foot down and say, look, this is what we're doing, and kind of control the league? Because essentially that's what happens in the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas, where those two schools kind of control how the rest of the conference is going to do things. Like they're the power brokers. And I'm curious if
The
that's the
Premier
same.
League owners need to vote 14 out of 20 of them. So if the bottom 7 teams revolt because they're more in fear of being relegated or they're not going to get a fair deal, then they could block, any decision, right, on the restart or whatever. So,
It's more democratic that way.
but if they play that too hard, then, the top 5 or 6 are then more likely to break away into a European Super League, right? So, so right, we're fed up with this.
Yeah.
The bottom 7 always blocking the top 14. Let's go and team up with Barcelona and
Yeah. And that's a good discussion for another day, I think, right?
Yes.
All right. Next topic for the podcast. We didn't get a chance to talk about this on the last one, but the U.S. Soccer Federation announced about 3 weeks ago now that they are going to end the Development Academy, and at the same time, MLS announces a youth league. So this is a major restructuring, major reorganizing of the U.S. Soccer's youth system in the United States. The press release, the news was saying that this was related to the coronavirus situation, that economically, commercially, they just couldn't afford to hold on to this youth system. But it also sounds like with MLS announcing a youth league, that plans, in a broader sense, were already in place to shift things. It just kind of moved up the timeline, is how I understand it. But wanted to kick this topic around with you all, and maybe, do we not like this reorganization? Do we not like the academy leaving? Or are we happy with MLS starting their own youth system? What do you guys think of this news?
Rafi?
Well, just one thing real quick. It's like, as soon as the coronavirus hit, they announced it. So they must have been sitting on it. It was like super fast. It was super, super fast. It was like, coronavirus, we're getting rid of it. And then that's all I got to say. I don't know.
But I mean, they're already operating kind of on the limit, right? They didn't have a lot of funding for the program to like be its own beast. And so I think I'm more for what happened. I don't think it'll hurt us. The clubs having youth systems will be a better fit for us, which brings us closer to other models in other parts of the world. The way that we've been operating up to this point, I feel like puts us at a disadvantage because you have a situation where you have to have parents who are able to pay and have the means to pay for you to be on an academy as a DA was designed. And then you play travel ball type of deal. So these kids are looking at it as like a play on a travel squad. That's not what this is. Other countries don't take it lightly like that. In other countries, these kids will be in the pool with thousands of other kids of the same age. they have to pass. They pick typically 12 to 20 kids, maybe depending on the year. And then you are part of that team. You receive professional training, professional assistance. You have nutritionists. You have people who tell you what to do, when to go to sleep, when to wake up. You go to school at the club. The club offers education. You do everything as a professional. For us, up to this point, you don't receive real professional training until after you leave college. At the point that you're 23, 24 years old, that's too old for you to then try to compete with other countries. Versus these kids who are 9 years old and receive full professional training to its entirety for the duration of the time that they're part of that club. If they don't no longer suffice in terms of, quality of play, then they kick you out, bring in another kid. But the kids are treated as professionals, and some, depending on their background, and mind you, again, most of these countries are poorer than we are. So some of them, for these kids, they travel from the northeast, let's say, of Brazil, all the way down to the south of Brazil. So the club will pay for their parents to move down to where the club is located. They'll help them. With obtaining an apartment, finding a job. So there's a whole full support thing behind. It's not like a travel ball team. And so these kids are actually fully prepared. Like, they have the mentality of becoming a pro. They depend on it. Their parents will get out of poverty only if they're diligent. They do their jobs. They become good players. So there's a huge difference. And the way that we're moving towards now, allowing the clubs to have a youth program, kids will take it much more seriously because they want to be part of that. So now it's kind of like, it's a meritocracy now. If you deserve it, if you earn it, you make it into the team. Because what you can't tell a club that they can let that kid go. Say, well, but my dad is paying $1,000. It doesn't matter. Your dad is not paying anymore. Now you're part of the club. You're a employee of the club as a kid. So it makes a huge difference.
The only problem I have with it is, like, I agree with the point that you made there, Rafi.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem I have with it, though, is now you're going to have these super clubs across different cities of the country. So, like, for instance, in the city that we're in, we have FC Dallas, and that is it. Not every kid is going to be able to be on the FC Dallas team. So that youth team that's with FC Dallas, who are they going to compete against? They're going to compete against other clubs that don't have the resources or don't have the training available to compete with them. So what are they going to do? Is the FC Dallas's youth team going to actually break off and go be part of another league? And are the other guys that aren't part of the MLS programs going to break off and be a part of the other league? And so you're not getting a competition, a mix of competition there. And that's where I think there's a bit of a challenge.
Perhaps initially, right?
But
I know that right now they have regions. Like, Dallas has its region.
I get
Chicago has a region that even includes, like, New Orleans. It's kind of strange, but
I get it. But the point where it works in Brazil is because you have clubs that are actually in close proximity, and the clubs are willing to relocate the kids' unit or entire family to other places. We don't do that in the U.S.
We have, but FC Dallas has.
Problem.
FC Dallas has done that with Chris Richards. They got him from Alabama and brought him up to Dallas.
But that's just FC Dallas. Not most other clubs don't do that.
I know, but there's several clubs in MLS that are doing stuff like that, though.
This is the very beginning. Maybe we'll move towards that model. Right? So initially, what you said may occur. We may have, just a few teams in a large area and then nobody, but there will still exist other clubs that are just travel ball teams, and maybe they can play those teams, and maybe all the MLS teams will now have a team. And the same way the professionals play, they travel to play. Maybe the youth will travel and play the other MLS youth teams as well.
I believe that's the plan that they announced, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And so it's just the first step, right? It's just getting away from that model of, everything is youth and I pay $1,000 a month for my kid to play. So you have to put my kid in. How do you compete like that? If you want to win, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the YMCA. It's not recreational. This is serious.
It should be based on merit.
Happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy that this is happening.
I am too.
I agree with it. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm just concerned about how it's going to go.
No, initially it's going to be, iffy, kind of spotty because, like you said, where is the competition? Is everybody ready, right? Does everybody have a team? And but then I think that, we can figure it out. There's a lot of smart people in the U.S. We can make it happen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you need, like, a player like Clint Dempsey. He became one of the greatest players in U.S. history, right? Mm-hmm. He had to come here in the Dallas area to get in the competition, and so not a lot of parents have that type of resource to do that. his parents happen to have that. It shouldn't take the child. You should allow the merit to be able to pull that, right?
Mhm.
And that's where we have the challenges there.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think it's going to lead to that, because now it's going to be a meritocracy. So, like Chris Richards, is that what you mentioned,
I
Chop?
believe so, yeah.
Right. So if you have a player like that you like, and that kid, he cuts it for your club, then you bring the kid over, you bring the family over, you do whatever it takes, and you give that kid the serious professional training and attention that he needs. He starts to develop the things that he needs to develop at an early age. I talked to Patrick Mullins a lot about this.
Name dropper.
We chat about this a lot. We talk about how, the difference between arriving at the professional scenario arena at 24, right, versus being trained by professionals at age 8. There's a huge difference there.
Right.
And that's why you can take kids from other countries at 16 and put them in the EPL, put them in La Liga. And you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
And that's why we see the draft players becoming less and less of an option.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sorry,
that's what I'm
Joe, but it's
talking
true.
I love the draft.
The draft
Especially
is
a football
the
guy.
weirdest thing ever for
It's
soccer.
weird. Yeah, it doesn't work for soccer. So
Well, do they have a show for the thing? No, they have a
Here's
draft
the thing.
show. Okay, then. They
So
don't have an academy show. They have a draft show. Damn it.
that's right. And it generates revenue. I get it now.
So
Like
it's
to Ant's point, it's all about TV revenue.
Yes, the American way. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But no, I think it's a good thing though overall. Gabe, sorry for the long answer, but I think it's a really good thing. We're gonna see actual more prepared players actually reaching the professional level versus people for the first time receiving professional training. It's mind-boggling actually.
Yeah, and also I think the clubs in MLS that are still kind of lagging behind on the academy system it's really going to start hurting them, I think.
Yeah. And they're gonna have to pick it up.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So what else are folks? How are we all doing with it? Huh? You got a topic?
Got something. So I
What do
came
you got?
across this today and sparked a little bit of debate between Chop and myself. We were going down memory lane a little bit. Now, for some of you guys know, some of us early, we all met. We're all friends. We all play soccer together. And obviously, Ant's with Tottenham, unfortunately, and some of us others with great clubs like West Ham and then FC Dallas. And, Bayern Munich's okay. We've been in a game there.
Every time you say that, I
However,
laugh.
FC Dallas was really when we were big. At least when I got into it was 2010, and we all kind of started going to games all together. And today, ironically,
Yeah, when I started dragging you all along.
Throwback Thursday, this photo popped up on Third Degree, props to you, showing the 2010 team. And I mentioned to the guys, I was like, name me a better starting 11 for FC Dallas. And the Gabe is all on board, Rafi, everybody else is on board. But, Chop here had to poo-poo on it. And to me, it's like the greatest goalkeeper ever. Can't get better than that. An amazing captain, a young David Ferreira. I think that was his MVP year. Obviously, we had Jair Benitez was great on side of the wing. I had a Brazilian treat. We had Jackson there. We had our leader, the great Ugo Ahimelu. I do have his jersey. I will name drop like Rafi that way.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Marvin Chavez was good too. The great Dax McCarty, who I believe that Rafi eats breakfast meals with. And then the great George John was an amazing defender. Atiba Harris was good too. And the greatest soccer player who ever played, my man crush, one Brecken Shea. So
Man crush.
Chop here said that 2016 was a better team, which great team. We support all FC Dallas, open for debate. And even you, Ant, I know you saw that picture. You're blown away by the amazingness of those guys. But I don't know how you compete with that. Now I know what you're going to say. They won, the Supporter Shield, all that, great. But they didn't make it to the MLS Cup, and that's all that matters. They didn't win it, but they got there. So that's my argument. It's a nice Throwback Thursday.
We should have that debate sometime, which is more important, the Supporters
Let's do
Shield
that.
or the MLS Cup.
Yeah, let's do that. So, Gabe, do I have 3 minutes for rumors?
Bring it. Let's do it. We need an intro song. We need a logo. Rafi's Rumors.
Rafi's
Drum roll.
I'll work on
Drum
that.
roll.
Rafi's
I'm
Rumors.
slowly adding more graphics.
Okay.
Portuguese.
We got about 8 minutes left.
Okay, so David Beckham and Inter Miami actually literally reached out to Real Madrid to inquire about
Another great Brit.
Indeed.
to inquire about James Rodriguez. There's a real interest there, considering Zidane and James don't get along too well. He doesn't get much play time. You guys know the story, so on and so forth. So nothing has developed since in terms of a response, but the inquiry was made. Apparently, Miguel Layun, the Mexican international, says that he wants to play for Inter Miami. So it was kind of a reverse approach there. He's actually putting out the score that he wants to play for Inter Miami. So we'll see. And then finally, there was a rumor that Schelotto was trying to bring Higuain to the MLS, specifically to LA. So
Galaxy.
yes.
All right.
Go to LAFC.
So we'll see what comes out of that. I'm personally more interested to know if James Rodriguez is gonna come to Inter Miami, because that would be huge.
Yeah, that would be huge.
But all three of those guys really would be a big deal.
Hey, Ant, if you were a big-time player in one of these bigger leagues across overseas, but you have a countryman like David Beckham come to you and say, "Hey, man, I want you to come to Miami, one of the greatest cities in America, and we'll pay you the top dollars a designated player," which for America is what? What would be a designated player?
$7 million.
How much?
$7 million a year.
$7 million a year. So I mean, it's a lot less. But
And they can get some incentives too. But yeah,
playing for Beckham's team to open up new, would you take that?
I think it's attractive at the end of your career, right? I think when you're at the peak, you want to be going from Tottenham to Real Madrid or Barcelona, or you don't want to be going. It's a step backwards, isn't it? So I think it's like saying, if you were a top player at the Cowboys, would you go and play in the European NFL if they restarted it? You probably want to be playing, if you're at the top of your game, you want to be playing with people at the top of the game, I think. But, once you're 34, 35, you're still close to the top of your game, but you're not quite there. Go to the beach, earn $7 million a year. Quite attractive, be the best player again, be the big fish in the small pond. Then it's quite attractive, I think, right?
There we go.
And there's also the issue with the UEFA Champions League, though, because if you leave, then you don't have that access anymore to Champions League, which is the biggest.
Miami's
not that.
Going back to the academy thing quickly, just thinking about if the MLS teams are going to run the academies, because how it works in England, you play for your school, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're good enough, so they're not pros, but they know how to play football. Then if you're good enough, you would play for county. So you play Dallas County, would play Tarrant County. So there's not an extreme cost of moving the kids all over the country to play Seattle at that, right? It's the local counties in Texas or Louisiana would play each other. And then the clubs are watching that level and they're picking out the best players to go into their academies, right? So, and then if you're in the academy, like you say, you've got nutritionists, you've got all of that. If let's take Harry Kane, he's worth, 200 million now, whatever. Yeah. He came through the Tottenham Academy, so they can invest a lot of money in this. Mm-hmm. And actually, I spoke to Clive Allen, who's the forward coach at Tottenham for that, and they didn't think Harry Kane was going to make it.
True.
Didn't think he was going to cut it. He wasn't good enough, but they said he worked and developed this game. Like you say, he had access to pros. He watched and learned from them, and now one of the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. But if I think about it, in London, we've got 8 Premier League teams, 8 First Division teams, Second Division teams. So you can play school, county, lower league, 4th Division, 3rd. So there's just hundreds and thousands of opportunities in these academies. Yeah. I think in New York, they've got 2 MLS teams. How do you train 16 million population of kids to an academy when you've only got 2 teams? It doesn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I looked at population size and landmass size. And so looking at countries like, we have to follow models like Brazil, just with sports period. But first, we'd probably want to go to Brazil. That's the closest to our landmass size, right? And see what they're doing and take out the best parts of what they're doing to try to develop players. And then, you look at other sports such as you look at China and Canada and Australia. What are the sports that they're good at? And what are they doing to get their youth ready for the international stage? And then bring all the best elements to that to be able to use in our soccer programs.
I think I think that we can kind of use the USL, UPSL, NPSL teams also as a means of being an alternative to those youth systems.
Mm-hmm. But I think the schools also have to do it, right? And there's a
Yeah.
gap. You can't go from school to club. There's got to be a, there's
Definitely.
got to be a kind of intermediary system to fill that gap, and especially where there's no MLS teams, right?
Right.
There's got to be somewhere the MLS scouts can go to see the best players in Louisiana, where there's not an MLS team, say, to go and keep an eye on them and scout for them.
Maybe.
ODP, boys. There's ODP. Don't forget. Every state has one.
That's right, Odell Beckham.
That's right.
All right.
The development program.
All right. Last segment. We got mailbag. We got a
Do
mailbag for the
real
last
quick.
segment.
Hold on. Okay, we have another mail that comes in. Parcel. It's from a Renato. And this question is for
weird name.
Britt, Ant-Man. Hey, he asked really quickly. He's having problems with this in school as he's learning to spell. Is it color or color?
What's the English?
Color. Color.
Why the U?
That's the
Color.
original English.
I'm thinking English comes from French or German, right? So
Right.
I think the U words are from French. Couleur, I guess.
Yeah.
It must be the French.
All right.
Absolutely.
You hear it first, Renato. It is color. French to English. You got this. That's all mailback
All
for
right.
Renato. It's our number one fan.
He didn't even say listen to the podcast. Love it.
Better English you speak,
He's our greatest fan. He listens every week. So
when you learn English, Joe, you'll find that the better English you speak, the closer it is to French. The worse English you speak, the closer it is to German, because the royal family spoke French and the workers spoke German, and that's probably why your English is more German than French.
oui.
All right. That's all the time we got for today. All right. Thanks for listening in to the podcast, everybody. We're DDR is signing off.
Yeah. Welcome back to the game.
Dallas Diablos Radio.